Hey guys, it's Cyrus of Chaos. I'm here with Nicole Ross, and we're going to be talking about her bout against Alice Volpi at the Torino Grand Prix in 2016. And I'm gonna let her give you some history on this bout, and then we'll get started. Nicole, take it away.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. It's exciting to rewatch this match. This was in the semifinal at Turin in 2016, and this is at the end of kind of a hot streak. Some people would say for me, this was my third semifinal in a row in 3 World Cups at the beginning of the 2016-17 season, and this whole competition means so much to me. I mean, I love fencing in Turin. I always have. I think as fencers we have those places that we love to go to, and that we always have a good feeling about, even if our results aren't always the best. And I love fencing in Turin. I always just love being in Italy, having a really good bowl of pasta the night before I fence, and the vibe, the people, the referees, the tournament committee. Everyone is just welcoming, and so it was such an honor to fence in the semifinal and then eventually in the final against my teammate Lee Kiefer in the following match after this. So, really good feeling. I don't think that Volpe and I had fenced too much in seniors up to this point, and we certainly fenced as juniors before, and also in the 2009 World Championship team final when we won against Italy. That was a historic victory for us, but as individuals we hadn't come up against each other too much, so this was sort of feeling each other out, and it's an interesting match, I think.
Okay, nice. Let's get started.
So far, I can tell you that the technical problems have meant that we won't have names up on the scoreboard. We have Nicole Ross on the piece. She's up against.
This was kind of the start of Volpe's rise as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, she started having really strong results, and this is certainly the lead up to her 2018 World Championship individual title, I would say. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure when she started fencing in a lot of finals, whether it was in 2015 or 16, even before that. But certainly after this, she is a staple in the semifinal and final of many World Cups.
What do you think about the raised strips being as narrow as they are? I personally always felt a little bit nervous fencing on them because of situations like the one I just saw here.
Yeah, I don't love this being raised. I think, I haven't really complained about it too much, but I always fall off of it.
Yeah.
And that's because I use a lot of side to side movement in my fencing. So when I counterattack, I usually just place the body. And, in order to do a really strong and aggressive counterattack, you need to really throw your body one direction or the other.
Yeah, totally.
At least I do. And so I'm routinely falling off the podium, which is both hazardous and somewhat embarrassing.
It's not embarrassing. It's a problem with the equipment. That was nice.
Thanks. Yeah. Touch I like to throw in once in a while. Always feels good to get the flick and to win the timing on the flick.
Yeah, and I feel that just threatening the shoulder is important because it's kind of like showing that you can hit the wrist in epee. It just shows them that they have to be careful of their short target, which might make them approach you a little bit more cautiously.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, we don't have a ton of women going for the shoulder in women's foil. Obviously, a couple of greats like Lee often go to that target, but to go there effectively and, like you said, to threaten it is pretty rare. And I think there's also something that happens in your body, your own body, when you go to that target, and it makes it sometimes harder for them to hit you in the chest.
Oh, I see. Because of the mechanics of doing it.
Yeah, there's something about it. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but there's something different about your body language and the way that you move that makes it just less predictable and less easy to hit the chest.
Gotcha. Volpe is another fencer who really likes to flick, and that opens up a lot of angles for her.
Definitely. She loves to take the stick flick especially.
Yeah.
Like a parry six and then flick to the back. She does it really well, and she can get super deep in the distance with you and still land on your back, which is really impressive. Going for it a few too many times there, though, on my part.
I actually thought that might have been from Nicole Ross. That's why she was about to say from Ross and the other way.
That was not a great replay.
Yeah, in this match, they missed a lot of my nice touches too, and the replay system at this point wasn't super, I don't know, squared away. So they have a little bit of issues with the timing.
Yeah, totally. As you do with any new technology. That was not great either.
Right.
Yeah, one of the things... Go ahead.
I watched that touch a bunch, and it's not, I think it's definitely against me. So I don't know, I was feeling like I won the time there, but in replay, I think that was the correct call.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things about fencing is that sometimes it feels a lot different from the center than it looks from the side. So yeah, sometimes you can definitely feel like something is yours, and then afterwards you're almost like, why did I do that? What was I thinking? But
totally.
Yeah. Wow, that was a hard angle to hit. Volpe's definitely a very aggressive fencer too.
For sure, she really wanted to come forward at the beginning of this match, and that played into my strengths. And that was actually one of my favorite touches of the bout, just because I waited so long to take that parry.
Yeah, and the angle of the repost was hard to hit as well.
Yeah, taking the parry in a sort of slow timing allowed me to find the target instead of going so fast with the repost.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there, I see what you mean.
Yeah, that touch will never be known. I have no idea what I did there. There's her flick to the back.
Flick to the back, yeah. So what was different about that counterattack than the one that you did previously?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, there was a closeout with it, right? So I gave myself some insurance by really closing the line directly after I hit. And then I think that the preparation going backwards was just a tiny bit more meticulous and patient, right? So I didn't rush into the counterattack as early. I did a lot of retreating before and a little bit of in and out stepping, which I think threw her off on how to finish exactly.
Yeah. I find that changing the distance a lot on defense is really important to getting counterattacks because you want them to feel like they're not exactly sure where you are. And by changing the distance, It makes it it just gives them more variables to think about.
Exactly.
Especially in foil where there's already a lot of variables to think about.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think going in and out of the distance, and giving her the feeling like she wants to bite on just hitting me straight was working there.
Yeah. You're definitely doing a really good job trapping her.
Thanks. Yeah, I was mixing well, and I think that, right, like I had just counterattacks, now here I parried, and I think it's easy to get caught up. A lot of coaches and even fencers, when they're looking at something like that, get caught up in the idea that I was planning all of these actions and that I was planning to mix. I really wasn't. I was just doing late actions. And when you watch and you spend more time and you are less afraid to get hit and waiting that extra tempo, you can see more of what's available to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's more of what's going on here rather than like planning and tactical wheel.
Yeah. It's also like when you in Saber, this is definitely true. I'd be interested to hear your perspective on foil. There's a certain situation that you can get your opponent in the ready fence time where you find a distance and timing that's really uncomfortable for them, and when you trap them in that timing, it's almost like whatever decision they make is wrong because they're putting themselves in an unfavorable position where you can react. So once you get them in that situation, it almost doesn't matter what they want to do. Because if they try to hold, you can see that in counterattack. And if they try to finish short, you can see that in parry. So it could be that you're just putting yourself in a good spot that's kind of bothering her.
Yeah, well, for me, and you're totally correct, but the question is, like, for fencers, how do you do that? Like,
Yeah.
how do you apply that pressure? And there's so many different techniques to be able to do that effectively, and for me, a lot of it is being the more patient one in the center.
And the referee. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I like what you said about the late timing. A lot of the time, people try to do things like that too early because it feels safer, but it's actually a little safer to be later because if you try to do it too early, the other person still has options. So,
Yeah. I mean, I think definitely at this time period in my fencing, making decisions later than my opponent was the name of the game. And then the other thing, like I'd mentioned before with that preem parry earlier in the match, similar to this touch, is just not accelerating too fast. I mean, when you accelerate too fast, you run into situations just like Volpe did with me, where the person's going to close you out or counterattack. So going slow and to medium speed helps you find that target.
yeah.
Periods of 3 minutes in fencing, but the target score is 15, and already Ross is
Volpe just doesn't look comfortable in any situation right now.
Yep, and I think you'll see here she's pretty smart fencer.
Yeah.
And she's the champ, so she's gonna change her weapon and really stall here and take her time, speak to the coach a little, and there is a momentum shift that's gonna happen after this as a result. So, just interesting to see her at her wit's end, sort of like being uncomfortable, being like, okay, well, it's time for me to reset.
Yeah. Some other ways to do that are by if you are trusting your blade and you don't want to change it over, you can fix your hair or tie your shoe. The referee's not going to say no to that a lot of the time. So, unless you start to do it excessively.
You'll see her get a little bit more feisty here, a little bit more willing to fight in the center.
Another great replay.
Yeah, that's another one of my favorite actions in this match, even though nobody scored and she actually hit off target, just because I was able to hang on.
Yeah.
She was really on the assault here, and with my footwork, I was able to stay grounded and hold on, and that was, to me, like a victory.
Yeah. To show them that kind of really aggressive pushing, like you're just not going to get bullied by them, basically.
Right. Went for that a few too many times, but I don't think it was the worst idea to go there. But it's just time to move on from that now, right?
Yeah,
so
totally.
That was sort of my cue to myself, and I don't know what that touch was.
Nobody does. Yeah, that kind of like waiting attack, which I think she's normally pretty good at, does not seem to be working for her in this bout. And sometimes...
Yeah, well, if you notice...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say she's really not ready to hit at any moment. She's looking for, like, the right distance, and so in my mind, she's moving in with her legs, but she's kind of soft on it, so when I present the target and she goes to hit, it's, like, weak, not with the legs, which she can hit so amazingly strong with her legs, like with the whole force of her body, but she wasn't really, this counterattack was actually a bit of an earlier moment. Like we were talking about how waiting longer. This was like an early moment that I surprised even me in looking back at it, was kind of like an off timing, and she just it just took her by surprise. She just wasn't ready.
Oops. Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes when you're used to getting a lot of touches, whoops, that was not far back enough. I was saying sometimes when you're used to getting touches in a certain situation, but you are having trouble in a specific bout, it can be hard to like switch off of that game plan. But I do agree that you're doing a very good job of mixing up the timings of things to make it even more difficult for her. Wow.
Third best touch of the bout. I've been trying for that earlier, and you saw me fall short a couple times, so it was really satisfying to get that.
When you say get that, what do you mean? What do you mean specifically? Like a mid-range attack like that, or
just to pressure her and open her up so that I could find a way to hit on the attack. Because if most of my actions have been on defense, whether they're parry reposts or counterattacks or just attacks in the middle. And to get that long pushing attack, I hadn't been successful doing that yet. So that was a good feeling to have one of those.
Yeah, this is a really fast bout for a foil bout.
Oh, well, just hold your horses. Not that fast. The commentators are saying the same thing. If you turn on the sound, they're like, wow, Ross is going to take this match. There's no contest, but just wait. Because
I didn't mean
until it's over.
I didn't mean like that. I just meant there's been a lot of actions in the short period of time that there's been.
Definitely. Way faster than I normally fence. And I think also I felt that at the time. And I was sort of wondering, okay, we're already at 13. This is unusual for me. But I think because, I was defending a lot and she was putting so much pressure on.
Right.
It just ended up being that way.
Yeah. And you kind of tend to have a slower bout when both people want to defend themselves, but when one person wants to attack and one person wants to go backwards, you tend to have a lot of actions.
Right.
I personally really don't like it when commentators will say at a certain point, oh, this is over. Because, I mean, the people who are fencing at this level are very strong and very capable of recognizing what they're doing wrong and adjusting. And, I mean, you see situations like this all the time that maybe the person who's down doesn't win, but it becomes very competitive. And I don't know, it seems kind of disrespectful to the athletes to say something like that. So
completely, I totally agree with you. I think it's so dismissive, and also, like you said, athletes at this level can come back from anything, and there's so many exciting things that can happen. I know I've been down 11-3 in a World Cup table of 32 or 64 and come back. I mean, there's just anything can happen. So
yeah, I remember
you're right.
there was a bout in Moscow a few years ago where Luca Caratoli was down 10-5 against Kim Jong-won, and one of the commentators was like, oh, I can't see him coming back from this, and Caratoli won 15-11. So,
right.
You just...
There you go.
Yeah, it just takes a second and, a lapse in concentration, and then you're right back in it, so...
Exactly.
So what happened here? Just a little too aggressive?
Yeah. I think I was planning maybe a little bit too much, right? Because I pulled my arm back for some reason, I think thinking she was going to go backwards. And to me, that just looks like a little bit of an over-planned action, not actually staying in the moment and watching what she was doing.
Yeah.
And you can see I'm chastising myself. I'm like,
yep.
Oh, what was I doing?
I like that you broke that attack off right there.
Thanks. Yeah, this is another victory for me. Even though no touches were scored, just holding her off. She's a lot more focused now. You can see she's down on her legs. She's got sort of just a more determined look. And so just to hold her off in that situation is victory.
Yeah.
Getting a bit fatigued here. I think, looking at my body language. Shifting a bit. So before, I was the fencer who was willing to stay in the action longer. Now she's sort of setting me up and going for a second intention or third intention.
Gotcha.
Their style and their rhythm most of the match is such a huge advantage. They can go back and forth and they can claw back the rhythm from the other fencer. And that brings the intrigue, doesn't it? The way that the momentum shifts from side to side. So 1 minute it's I'm the one that's got all the momentum, then you steer it away.
Yeah, to me it looks like I'm just looking for the easy thing here, right? Instead of doing all the hard work that I've been doing before.
Yeah.
And it's understandable because she's making it harder. So I need to now up my level because I haven't had to do that yet.
Yeah, exactly. So what would you try to do as the competitor here who feels like the momentum has changed like that? Would you try to work more on your legs? Would you try to think a little bit more about what you were doing?
Like if I was myself?
Yes, if theoretically you were yourself, yeah.
Yeah, I think the first thing I would do is take way more time to get back to my on-guard line. I clearly needed a minute here And I didn't do that thing that she did very well before, which was to stall.
Yeah.
I sort of just started getting frazzled and tired. And I think as a more mature fencer now, I walk back to the end of my strip, let Bucky say something to me, even let him maybe let us get, in a little bit of trouble with the ref for that. And just really take my time and make her wait. Because now she's ready to go at every on-guard line, every time the referee says on guard, right? So that's the number one thing that I would do. And then the other thing that I would do is just really vary the distance and not follow her as much. Following her has been working because I've been able to really calculate a good distance with her this whole time. But now she's a bit more vigilant, and that's not working anymore. So I would just start to go in and out, and maybe even go all the way back to the end of the strip and then all the way close to her. Just not do something so predictable. That would be the big thing.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I like what you said before about taking some time and maybe even getting in trouble with the ref, because when things are going really well, you want to get on guard really quickly, but when things are not going really well, you want to take a little more time. And if the ref gives you a yellow card at this point, so what? I mean, that's almost like a slap on the wrist. But if the alternative is feeling lost and possibly getting more touches scored against you, I think that's a good trade-off. So
definitely. And I think that tactically the one thing that I would really change is I would start pushing her for that longer attack that I had mentioned before that I hit with a disengage, not even to finish that way, but just to put some pressure on her going backwards.
Yeah, counter pressure, totally.
In this 13-9 down, that's still an attack from the American.
Jeez, again.
The same action, she's claiming she hit the blade.
The replays are really screwing you over here.
This is a controversial call because it looks like she caught my blade at the end in 6. But what the referee's saying and what I think happened is I faint disengaged around her 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to see on the video whether she actually caught my blade or not.
Yeah.
The reason why she's so incredulous is because she's pretty sure she caught my blade. In the moment, I wasn't really sure whether she caught it a little bit or I successfully got around it. But you can see my arm pulling back because I was going for a faint disengage.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's not possible to see if they made contact at all.
Yeah, but a pretty big touch for me at this point either way.
Yeah, definitely. 13 is a lot different from 14 for both you and your opponent.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the tricky things about the replay is that there is no sound in the replay at all. So it can be really difficult to see touches like this in video.
Nicole Ross does indeed get her 14th hit. That was an attack from the right. Direct beat attack.
Nice attack by her. I mean,
Yeah.
really.
That's the kind of thing that Volpe needs. That was an attack from the right. Direct beat attack. That's the kind of thing that Volpe needs here. More aggression, more tight, direct slow. Well, she can't make a mistake. That's another one. That's sort of her second phase of her.
I'll give her credit for not changing her plan. She's just executing it a little better.
Very happy with that.
Yep. She's just going for it harder, with more focus, more intention.
Oh, counter through to take
But with her going harder and faster, that was the right thing to do. And so I think, it looks like a lucky touch.
No, I don't think so at all. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I think it was really smart because she's coming so hard and fast now with so much confidence that that's the last thing she expects to happen.
Yeah, also the last...
Even though that was... Even though that touch had been... I'd used that touch many times in the bout previously.
Yeah, and also the last 2 touches you tried to defend yourself with distance, and that was a getaway counterattack, and the next one you try to do a parry while getting out, and then you mix that up with a step-in counterattack, so... Yeah, I don't think that was lucky at all. That was a good tactical decision.
Clearly very, very happy with that.
Thanks.
Where a couple of points makes a big difference at this stage. Ross will be feeling comfortable at 49. Oh,
But yeah, probably one of my only bouts of all time that went to one period. I mean, like at a high level, I can't remember any other bouts that I fenced that were one period. So kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And with so many twists and turns in the match.
Yeah.